The following video contains language that may be inappropriate for young viewers. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Welcome to Behind the Bars, where we bring the unseen and the unheard stories from the depths of the prison system to the forefront. I'm your host, Jason Boss, and together we'll explore the madness, the chaos, and the harsh realities hidden behind the steel doors of prisons worldwide. From the local jailhouse to death row across the world, we'll show you the isolation, the seclusion, and the decades spent enduring unimaginable conditions. These are the stories of survival, struggle, and humanity in places most of us will never see. We're here to shine a light on what society often forgets, the voices of the incarcerated. Each story is real, each voice is authentic, and every moment reveals the raw, unfiltered truth of life behind the bars. Join me for a journey like no other, a journey into the darkness, the truth, and the resilience of the human spirit. This is Behind the Bars, real life, real stories.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, thank you so much for being on this podcast. This is podcast number 6 of a very exciting guest that I have. I have Charles Mamou Jr., who is in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice on death row, and he has been on death row now for over 25 years for a crime he did not commit. So without further ado, I would like to say hi to my brother, Charles Mamou Jr. How are you?
How you doing, brother? Much love to you, man. Much love. I have to get over these extravagant introductions to me. You know, you humble me so much.
Oh, man. Man, we're honored to have you on there. This is a really special presentation that we have, and you know, we got down to the dirty last week on this, and you got headphones in, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting a little echo in this. Okay. All right. So we got down to the down and dirty last time, and we went over the crime and the way that it was presented. And let me go through this and see if I can recount this, and you let me know if this was correct or not. Now, what we had is we had a drug deal setup that there were 3 people involved in this drug deal setup. The 3 people involved, they knowingly and they actively were going to a location to rob you. Their entire intent was to take your money and to basically either take it by force or take it by whatever was possible. Now, that part is, I have this correct, right?
Yeah. Well, there was 4 people involved, 3 guys and 1 girl, Mary Carmouche. And I understand how the business gets. So people may want to say, look, she didn't know what's going on. I dispute that. But, yeah, so 3 guys and 1 girl.
Okay. Cool. And when the drug deal went bad, the guy that was supposed to be your driver, he split, he burned, he was supposed to be coming back, but you had jumped in the car of the guys trying to rob you. In the back seat, Mary Carmouche pops up, and at that point you had no idea at all that she was even in the car or part of this gig. Is that correct?
Right. And bro, let me say something real quick.
Yep.
And I know that society as a whole, who has no knowledge of street living, they always want to pick delicate situations. But let me put something in pure language for everybody that's listening. My intention that night was to do a drug deal. It was not to carjack a car. It was not to kidnap some underage girl. It was not to shoot anybody. The whole reasoning of my engagement was to do a drug deal. So the asinine idea that I was there to kidnap, carjack a car and kidnap Mary Carmouche is just so far-fetched. It frustrates me that I even have to explain that,
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So I guess the supporting part of that would be that if you were there to jack them, why would you have brought money? Why would you have been this guy that's trying to buy the drugs, right? It doesn't make any sense to me from an outsider's perspective that you would be there to do any of this. Now, from the story that goes on is basically there were multiple witnesses that said it was a carjacking, that said that you were involved in this, but at the end of the day, you ended back up at Sam Walden's apartment complex with Mary Carmouche, at which point you showered, and that was the last time that you ever saw this woman, and that was the end of that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so from that, go ahead. Did you? Okay. Sorry, dude. There's a little echo in this thing. So from that moment on, you went back to Louisiana, and you were pulled into. You were basically pulled into a room inside the investigation, at which point they said that they wanted to, if you would point the finger at Sam Walton and the other fella, that you were going to get 20 years, at which point you told them to kick rocks. And at that point, that infuriated the cops enough to pin this entire thing upon you. Is that correct?
Yeah, his name was Sam Bug Johnson.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's pretty much what exactly happened. They wanted me to say that I saw Mary Carmouche with Sam Bug Johnson, and the significance and the relevance of this, no one would even know until 19 years later. That's how crazy this is, man. There was a reason why they wanted me to say that. There was a reason why the guy that testified against me, they actually asked him if I was driving a red or burnt orange sedan, Dodge and Trip or something like that. That's because that was Sam Bug Johnson's car.
And so take me through the next steps of where exactly you landed, because you never made it out of jail at that point, correct? That was the last bit of freedom you ever had?
Correct.
Okay. And the date, the year was, what year was this that you landed right there?
It was December 10th of 1998 when I was initially arrested and transported to Lafayette Parish Correctional Center, LPCC. And so after the interrogation with Detective King and Detective Boyd, they charged, but they didn't charge me. So I don't even like using certain words that would implicate something that really didn't exist. They put me on TV saying that I was involved with another drug dealing case of Terry Landry, and I never went before a judge, none of that. But Houston district attorney took that audio or whatever from the Louisiana television, presented it to the grand jury, and presented that this was my M.O. And, of course, then I get indicted. But during this time, we had an extradition hearing. A Louisiana judge, I was brought forth to a Louisiana judge. They had a representative of Texas there. They presented their hearsay case. The judge denied the extradition writ or whatever, and I was sent to Angola. I was sent first to Hunt Penitentiary in Louisiana. It was a lot of confusion of why I was there, and then a van came, picked me up, and I was brought to Louisiana State Penitentiary. And when I got off the van, it was just me and the officer. The classification lady asked me who I was because I was not on her roster. I told her who I was. She asked the officer why I was out there. He said he didn't know. All he knew was for him to bring me here. When she said, well, we got enough room for you, so until we figure this out, They put me on Raven D camp, cell 13.
And secluded, right? You've been in isolation pretty much ever since, right?
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so how long were you there, and why did they take you there versus, were you still fighting extradition at that point?
See, that's the confusion of it all, because no, I wasn't, because I wrote the district attorney, which there's a copy of that letter that's online at the walkinmyshoes.com page that presents my case. I wrote the district attorney, I told the district attorney, hey, I'm willing to give my DNA, I'm willing to take a lie detector, and you have to understand something, I was not forensically intellectual back then, so I didn't know, but I didn't give a damn about DNA or lie detector tests either, because I know I was not responsible for killing Mary Comus, and that's all that mattered to me. If this is what you charged me with, now if you was charged me with something, a conspiracy to engage with criminal activities or whatever, something else, then okay, you had me. But that's not what you charged me. You charged me with the murder of Mary Comus, which I did not do. So I wasn't fighting extradition, but at the time I did not know the legal process. So when I went before the judge in Louisiana and she denied the extradition warrant, that was literally me fighting extradition, right? Uh-huh. But that was not my will. That was the state-appointed attorney who was fighting my extradition, because the judge said there was no evidence of me being involved there, period, right? Uh-huh. Like I said, Angola, Louisiana State Penitentiary had a white wooden courthouse outside of the prison that was linked to it, that was nexus to it or whatever. And I remember I went one day, they brought me over there, and the guy was asking me, hey, why don't you sign these papers? It's extradition warrant, and this will get you to Texas. Now, the only hesitation on my part here was, one, I don't even know why I'm in Angola, period. Angola was a very notorious prison that had a very bad reputation of murders and craziness, right? But I had not been to court, I had not been to trial, I had not been convicted of anything yet, and yet I found myself inside of a penitentiary. I did not know who this guy was, so I didn't sign no papers. Now, somebody needs to tell me more than that. And but my telly, he was reading my case, and he was like, man, this is crazy. I ain't never, out of all my years, because he had been in penitentiary since 1981 at this time, so he was like, all my years of doing time, I've never heard of somebody being in the penitentiary who had not been in court, had not been convicted of anything yet. So he tells another guy, right? So this guy comes up to me, man, and he says, hey, I heard you the one that ain't supposed to be in the penitentiary. And I said, well, yeah, man. I said, you know, he said, check this out. He said, I'm going to stab you in your lungs. It's gonna miss any main organ, so you gonna live. They gonna lock me up. You be able to sue the state of Louisiana for having you here. Just make sure you got my cut when I get out. And I'm thinking to myself, that's the most craziest shit I've ever heard in my life. You know what I mean? Like, what the? And I was like, nah, man, I'm good. You know. I don't know, but she's going to get me out of this, you know what I mean? That's all I could have told her, right? And so what happened, like a couple of weeks later, I'm still there, still on administration lockdown. I had no access to telephone. I had no access to writing material. I had no access to anything. So my cellie talked to the officer, and he tells the officer, hey, man, this dude is not supposed to be here. His family probably don't even know where he's at. And I showed him my paperwork, and he was like, hey, man, I'm going to let you use the phone. And when I called, he put me in a little cage area, like a little play booth, and I called my mom, right? And I'll never forget this conversation. My mom was like, oh, baby, where you at? I said, Mom. She said, we've been looking for you all over. We called Texas, you ain't there. We called Lafayette, you ain't there. Did they let you go? I said, Mom, calm down. I said, Mom, I'm in Angola. And she gets real quiet, right? I said, Mom. She said, yeah. She said, say that again. I said, I'm in Angola. And the phone hit the floor, and she's screaming because of the reputation. And I was telling her, man, calm down, just call a lawyer. Because my lawyer at the time was a old Italian cat named Tony in Lafayette, Louisiana. So I told the officer, I said, hey, man, if you don't mind, before you leave the shift in the morning, it's urgent that I call my attorney. Because I didn't know his number. My mama gave me his number. The next day, I called my attorney, and he was looking for me too. And within 24 hours, I was out of there. I was brought back to Lafayette Parish Correctional Jail, and then I signed the extradition papers because I wanted to get this over. I wanted to go to Harris County because I felt like, and this goes to show you how dogmatic I was about the legal system, I felt like justice would actually happen because I didn't kill Mary Carmouche again. If it was something else you charged me with, fine. But that's not the case that happened.
Right. All right, so you signed the extradition papers, and how long was it before they came to get you?
Maybe another month.
Wow.
It still took a while because you have to understand Harris County, well, not Harris County District Attorney, but HPT was still building the case. I mean, we only, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. So I didn't arrive to Houston till July. So we was only 7 months into the investigation, and they were still trying to build a case on me.
Did you ever find out why they took you to that prison?
You know, I can tell you, I brought it up in my trial because I was trying to at least show the jury that unbeknown, I was unbeknown trying to do something because I didn't know the law, right? But the allegations that they were throwing at me was false. And all I was trying to do was show the jury that they accused me, which is on trial transcripts for anybody to read. And I told the jury, I said, look, man, they're killing somebody in Louisiana just so they could get it indicted in Houston. And they already had a suspect in the county jail, the same county jail I was in, who confessed to the crime. And then they put me in Angola, so I didn't have no access to call in nobody, and nobody knew where I was. And the district attorney, Lynn McClennan, he tried to say, well, the reason why you was in Angola because you was on probation. Probation for what? So, but again, he didn't have to prove anything. He just had to satisfy the curiosity of the all-white jury. And I was thinking about this last night before because I know we were calling today. I knew we were going to continue our little journey down memory lane. And the thing about American society, though, is this. I was thinking about it while I was laying down on this iron bunk. In this country, it is so easy for the mentally poor people to accept anything the man says, right? And the man is not pigmentation. So we're not talking about race, right? We're not talking about gender. We're talking about ideologies, ideological perception of who's in authority. So anyone in authority who has more money, who has more status, or who appears to be more educated, tells somebody who's a really mentally broke that Jason Boss did the crime, guess what's going to happen? Y'all watch Dateline. Y'all watch all these crime episodes. Nobody ever asks, well, how you know he did it? They don't. The only thing they want to know is, just give me your name, and it doesn't matter. I'll tell you a perfect example, man. Michael Morton. This was a Texas case too, right? And I read his book when he got out. He got exonerated. This man did 25 years. He had a capital life, he just missed the death penalty, but for killing his wife, right? And 25 years in his book, and I'm only telling y'all what he said. For 25 years, he had been pleading to everybody, his wife's family, even his own family, that he did not do it, and nobody believed him. Nobody believed him. There was no gun, there was no weapon, there was no blood, there was no DNA. In fact, the eyewitnesses put him at his job at the time of the murder that somebody was actually killing his wife. But the district attorney said they found a letter where he was cussing his wife out because it was his birthday, and he thought he was going to get a happy ending his birthday. She was tired. She farted on him, went to sleep, and he expressed all this in his little note. So because of this note, Michael Morton killed his wife. Right? Nobody for 25 years, well, for 23 and a half years, nobody asked one single question until the Innocent Project came along. And because they asked one question, it led to his innocence of being exonerated. And I'm not trying to compare my life, my case, my situation to Michael Morton, but I'm just saying that for society, for a judgmental society that we have, including prisoners, I don't care who you are, inmate, whatever you are, inmate free, whatever. We are such a judgmental and hypocritical society that the reason we have wrongful convictions and wrongful imprisonment is because we are so quick to judge those that don't look like us and those that don't act like us. So when I told the jury about my situation in Angola, they, in 2025, a rational person would say, well, hold up. If this man was in the penitentiary, he hadn't went to trial yet, he hadn't even been arraigned yet on any crime, he hadn't even been convicted of nothing. So why was he in a penitentiary? Today, jury in 2025 would have found it appalling. Probably would have asked questions. That's why it's not that people have. I hear this all the time. Well, people have changed their minds on differently. That's some bullshit. No, they haven't. But we have a more rational society, still hypocritical and still judgmental. But we do ask more questions now, and that's why you have less wrongful convictions today than you did when Johnny Holmes was running around just saying, you know, me and Monty Mo, you go on their road. And that's how it was. You didn't need it, no evidence.
Wow. Okay, so you signed the extradition. It takes you about a month to get back to Harris County. What does intake look like? How did that go down?
I was put in population. I was put with other inmates. They had a process in Harris County, and I think they still do. So you have to go through like 5 different bullpens before you make it to the floor area where you was designated a cell. And each one of these bullpens, you know, you got more crowding, so you might have the size of your living room might be filled with 200 people. Half of them is crazy, you know, pissing on themselves, talking to themselves, fighting each other. It's number chaos. And within a journey of 2 days, you go through each one of these little bullpens before you make it to a floor. And yeah, you know, it was just, I had never experienced nothing like that because Louisiana is more, even though it was a poor state, they do have a more humane judicial process when they arrest somebody. But when I get to the floor, of course, everybody knew who I was because I was on TV already. So the character assassination had been started for months because first it was a carjacking, right? And then when you start saying, well, he owned 4 cars, so, you know, carjacking don't really just sound right. But then they leaked out that Mary Carmouche was sexually assaulted, raped. And in 1998, 1999, put this in perspective. In 1999, this country, voting rights, civil rights was only passed in 1965, right? The bill was issued in 64, but in 65 it actually took effect, and before it could really get circulated where people actually saw no more threat to the voting rights and women of all colors and all whatever, they too caught up in the civil rights, so they had voting rights too. So by this time it was 1970. So from 1970 to 1999, we're talking about only 29 years. You can't change the society's mindset in 29 years. So the stupidity of Emmett Till's, where Emmett Till put at a woman, or Rosewood, Florida, where a man allegedly raped a white woman that never happened. She admitted that she lied, and on, that still held weight. So when they said in the media that Mamou raped Mary Carmouche, they knew they had no evidence to prove it, but that's not what they was trying to do. They were just trying to take the jury pool, and it was successful. I'll never forget when I did go to trial, and Lynn McClennan stood before this jury. I'll never forget this woman, a chubby woman, a white woman, long curly hair. She wore glasses and she had a red blouse on. And when Lynn McClennan told the jury, stood before them with his intimidating presence, because he was like 6'4", 380 pounds, something like that. That woman, I looked at her, she took her glasses off, and she cried. That's how impactful that image was, bro. Even though it never happened. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But that jury believed in Lynn McClennan, this attorney, because he's a man. He said it, so it has to be so. Mm-hmm. And I remember I didn't think, because in my mind, the reason why I never entertain, I don't entertain stupidity now. When somebody says something to me that be behind a card game, Mamou, you cheated. Of course, we don't play cards in here, but I'm just saying hypothetically, if somebody said, Mamou, you cheated, man, I'm not about to sit here and argue with you about my character when I know I didn't cheat on the cards. Now, to my detriment, that really was a mistake in this case, because my silence, people took that to mean, it got to be true then. He ain't saying nothing. But again, if you don't know who I am, you never knew my character, you never understood, you could never comprehend that I'm not an argumentative dude. I've never argued with nobody.
Yeah.
So...
Okay, so let's...
You have 1 minute left.
Let's finish off. Give me some wisdom. You got 40 seconds. What do you got?
I have, so 40 seconds, I would like to tell the world, I love you all. That's it. Yeah. And I know that sometimes people say, well, you don't mean that. It doesn't mean it. The meaning doesn't have to be meant by me. It's said by me, because somebody needs to hear those words. And that's how we all should encourage each other, just by telling everybody, I love y'all. I love you.
Beautiful. All right, everybody, thank you for being on this podcast. Thank you, Charles Mamou Jr., and until we talk again, much love to you, my friend.
Peace.